So we were just talking about the Ron Foley Foundation and Ron's Run for the Roses.
One time to the beat.
Thanks so much for joining me.
My pleasure.
So we were right before we started this show, we were talking about just Barbara and her, you said, a merry band of volunteers, which is perfect, about how much work they've put in over the years. Has this been 14 years now they've been doing this event?
I believe it is, Dave. I'm not as sure of the exact number, but I was mentioning to you the amazement. I'm involved as a cancer center director. I'm involved in lots of organizations, national, regional, local, some of which, like the Foley Foundation, started with a family's personal experience to start an event in memory of a loved one. And very few have the staying power that the Foley Foundation has. Not only the staying power, but the ability to grow the event and link with and connect with people all over the state and even beyond the state who have been impacted by pancreas cancer, and unfortunately many people have, and to increase the awareness of pancreas cancer, the need that families and patients have, and funding research, which is ultimately going to hopefully get us to make strides with the disease.
You may not know the answer to this question, but I know she funds research.
Yes.
I know she helps families in need if they're going through it, because when a loved one has cancer, really of any kind, there's all sorts of different expenses, not just medical expenses. So I know she helps folks with that.
Right.
Can you elaborate, if you know, sort of what else her foundation's involved in?
I think those are the main areas of focus for them. And we've been fortunate enough to receive several research grants amongst our researchers at Hartford Hospital and Hartford Healthcare. But I know that they've funded research in many of the organizations and healthcare research centers across the state. They've helped lots of patients and families who, as you might imagine during a pancreas cancer journey, lose their work, have no income, can't afford their mortgage payment or their car payment or anything, and need help with transportation or other things to help them get through their treatment. They've helped lots of families in need, and it's been just phenomenal. So.
Could you tell us a little bit about, so a lot of people call it pancreatic cancer. You've been calling it pancreas cancer. Tell me if it's the same thing.
Same thing.
And could you just tell us briefly sort of what it is, how it materializes, if there's any known causes or signs of?
Sure. Well, we don't know really what causes it. It's certainly, there's an increased risk in people who have diabetes. But we otherwise really don't know what causes the disease. There'll be 66,000-ish cases in the United States this year, pretty much equally divided amongst men and women. And unfortunately, only right now about 10% of people survive the disease, ultimately. And that's its big toll. It accounts for about 3% of all cancers in the United States, but about 7% of all cancer deaths in the United States.
Okay.
So you can see that it has a toll that's much greater than its incidence because we don't yet have good treatments. And one of the reasons that it takes a toll is because we don't usually discover the disease until it's advanced. It causes relatively few symptoms when it's early. They could be nonspecific abdominal discomfort, new diagnosis of diabetes. Generally speaking, many people have as the first symptom jaundice, where your skin turns yellow, and that's because the cancer blocks the bile duct that drains the liver. Unfortunately, when that happens, it's already generally pretty advanced. And so one of the major areas of research that lots of folks have focused on is how can one diagnose it earlier? And many different ideas are being worked on, one of which is blood tests that are now being done looking for cell-free DNA. That's tumor DNA fragments that are floating in the blood of people who have an underlying cancer. to see if that will help diagnose the disease. And there are some early results suggesting that that might be a useful avenue. Another is since a certain percentage of patients with pancreas cancer actually carry an inherited gene that might place them at higher risk, is screening families with a family history of pancreas or other kinds of cancer to determine who might be at risk, and then maybe performing some imaging tests like an MRI or an endoscopic ultrasound of those people to see if they might have something going on in the pancreas, like a certain kind of cyst that might place them at higher risk for developing pancreas cancer.
What does the pancreas do? Why do we need it? Is it something that can be removed, or is it something we need?
It is something that we need. It secretes enzymes and hormonal substances. It secretes enzymes that help us with digestion, and it secretes insulin and other hormones that help us with our metabolism. It can be removed, but if it's all removed, we have to replace those enzymes by taking them by mouth for the digestive ones, and by injecting insulin or others, because you cause diabetes if you remove the pancreas. So it's got vital functions, but they can be replaced. But the surgery is not so easy. It's a really big operation because the pancreas sits between the stomach and the small intestine and other organs in the abdomen, and removing it involves removing portions of the normal tissues and rerouting them, if you will.
Okay.
And that's why many patients with pancreas cancer don't qualify for surgical removal of the tumor, because either it's too advanced or their age prohibits them from undergoing such a major operation. So only about 20% of people with pancreas cancer ultimately are candidates for what could be a potentially curative operation.
So the theory is, if I guess just with any cancer, right, if you can catch it early enough, you have more of a chance of treating it and getting that person healthy again. And how, if you were to catch it early enough, what are some of the treatments that folks want to go?
Well, surgery has been the main curative treatment that we've used to date. We have, like most cancers, a multidisciplinary team that takes care of patients with pancreas cancer and applies several different treatments. So in addition to surgery, we might also use radiation therapy, and there are several types, some of which are highly focused on the tumor. And we have chemotherapy, which have gotten better at targeting the tumor cells. We now understand that certain pancreas cancers may carry mutations in the cancer genes. So we assess the cancer genes when we biopsy them. And if they harbor those mutations, we have targeted molecules that might be utilized to treat the tumor. And there's now some very early evidence to suggest that immunotherapy that you've heard a lot about for melanoma and lung cancer may be potentially applicable in certain cases of pancreas cancer, and some early studies even looking at immunotherapy vaccines that could be used for pancreas cancer. Again, very preliminary and not completely proven yet, but preliminary research is quite exciting.
That's good. I know chemotherapy, that's the first thing I think a lot of people think about when it comes to cancer. It's chemo. There's a new, maybe that's what you mentioned, there's a new treatment, radiation, or not radiation, but it's like chemotherapy, but I guess it's more targeted. Is that something, am I way off base? But that doesn't kill everything, it sort of just targets.
That's the molecularly targeted therapy that I was talking about, and it requires the tumor to have those particular characteristics that match that target. And that's all part of something we call precision oncology, which is where we don't develop a treatment for all patients with breast cancer or all patients with pancreatic cancer. We develop a treatment for each person, because each and every person with pancreatic cancer is different in terms of not only the characteristics of the tumor itself, but also who the person is, what's their age, what's their medical history, how many other medical problems do they have that may limit their treatment possibilities. And so Precision oncology enables us to study the genome of the tumor, to look at the patient and the tumor and all the characteristics of the patient, and come up with a targeted treatment that's really appropriate for that individual.
So, a couple of questions. How long you've been in this field of specifically pancreatic cancer, and then what are some of the advancements, the improvements that you've seen, or the more general question is, have there been significant improvements from when you first started in this field to today?
Yeah, I wish I could say that we've made huge advances, but we haven't really. I've been a practicing radiation oncologist for now approximately 43 years.
Wow.
And I've been director of the Cancer Center, the Helen and Harry Gray Cancer Center at Hartford Hospital, now for about 30 years.
Okay.
I think we're on the cusp of some newer developments in pancreas cancer that are exciting. We've made some already. We've discovered that there's something about the milieu that pancreas cancers sit in that elicit a reaction that causes the tissues to be stiff. And the stiff tissues in the pancreas don't permit drugs to get through that stiff tissue to the tumor cells. So one of the exciting developments that's happened in the last couple years has been the development of drugs that will enable us to loosen up those tissues, to enable medications to be delivered to the tumor cells. The other is the development of these genomic assessments, which enable us to potentially target a certain percentage of patients with targeted therapy. Another is the development of a type of radiation called stereotactic radiation, which can deliver a higher dose to the tumor in a short period of time that may be more ablative or at least controlling of the tumor. Another is how we combine the treatments in a smarter way to have a bigger impact on the tumor. The surgeons who remove these tumors have made their surgeries better and better so that they're better tolerated by the patient, and use techniques that will allow the areas to heal a little bit more quickly. Our interventional gastroenterologists who study the pancreas and the bile duct have learned ways of diagnosing the tumor better using an ultrasound that they put into the patient's stomach and duodenum so that they can biopsy the tumor and the lymph node areas, and they can place stents or little sleeves inside the bile duct that open it up again so that they can get rid of and ameliorate the jaundice. So I think a sum total of all of these things, and now this prospect of immunotherapy helping for selected patients, is all exciting. So my guess is that over the next several years we're going to see some more major and significant breakthroughs in the treatment of pancreas cancer that really offer hope for patients and families with the disease. In addition, earlier diagnosis, I think, as we discussed a little bit earlier, will come to fruition. I think the several investigators are looking at cell-free DNA assays to determine how we might diagnose the disease early. And it may be 5 years from now that all of us get an annual blood test rather than a mammogram, or maybe in addition to a mammogram or a PSA blood test for our prostate. Each of us may get an annual blood test that screens for a whole bunch of cancers. And if we find abnormal DNA in that blood test, the patient will get the directed test needed to see if that patient has a cancer. It's still early yet for prime time. It's not FDA approved, but I think there will be some tests that will be approved in the next year or two that will offer hope for earlier diagnosis.
That's good. That's good news. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is that, as cancer professionals, we surround the patient with a team of people who really care for the patient and family, and it's taking into consideration the pain that these patients may have, because the pancreas sits in an area that can cause discomfort, and managing their pain and symptoms better than we have before, and taking care of their financial needs, which we had discussed earlier as meeting the needs of a family, because it's a holistic issue. It's not just treating the tumor, it's it's treating the patient and family as well.
So I have a bunch more questions about this, but I have you for a limited amount of time because you did come here for a party, and I want to get you back to that party. So I do want to ask
appreciate
you a little bit with your relationship with the Foleys.
Sure.
You know, I know you have a little bit of history with Ron. Just kind of briefly tell me how you met Ron and Barbara, and just starting then and where we are today.
Sure. Well, we actually were fortunate enough to meet them before Ron was diagnosed because our kids went to school together.
Okay.
So we met them at a parent event at the school, and our kids knew one another. And then when Ron was diagnosed, I was privileged enough to be one of his physicians and help to care for him. And Ron was just a wonderful, caring person. Everybody loved him. He was just, an amazing guy. And it was a tough journey for him. And unfortunately, like so many people diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, he ultimately lost his battle and fight. But I think everybody was so inspired by not only Ron's stubbornness to get through it, but the family and friends of Ron who were really behind him. And I think that was the genesis of what's become, an amazing legacy, which is the Ron Foley Foundation.
Yeah. How soon after Ron passed did Barbara start this wonderful organization that she has
I think
today?
it happened pretty quickly, Dave.
Yeah.
I think within a year, Barbara and friends had an idea that they wanted to do something to give back. And Barbara can give you, or Tim can give you many more details than I can, but I think it happened pretty quickly. I think there was a real feeling of loss and a sense that they wanted to do something that would make a difference, and indeed they have.
So I never asked Barbara this, and I guess I should have. Why, maybe you don't know, maybe I'm hoping you do, why the Kentucky Derby? Is this something that they did as a couple, or?
You're gonna have to ask that one of Barbara,
Okay.
but it's been a
'Cause it's
hallmark of the
Yeah.
of the organization ever since.
Yeah.
It just, when we think about early May and the Derby, we think about the Run for the Roses for the Foley Foundation.
It's
That's just
terrific.
what we think about.
And just being a resident of West Hartford for 16 years, no longer, but she's very prevalent in the community. There's always people are always participating with Purple and just with everything. So it's obviously it's an amazing cause, but I think just Barbara's just an amazing person.
Yeah. Barbara likes to talk about the power of Purple, and
Yeah.
there is truth to it, Dave, because everybody knows what it means. And in West Hartford, when we see the power of Purple signs up, we know that that's the time to shop and really support the good people of West Hartford, the good institutions that live there from the retail perspective who really give back.
Absolutely.
To really make our community a better place.
And I have one more question for you.
Please.
What are you wearing on your finger? Not that finger, the other finger.
This is a wonderful purple ring that was given to me because I am supporting the cause
Should hold it up.
fundraising event.
There we go. Yeah. That's
today.
awesome.
So
I
I'm proud to wear it.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Doctor. I really appreciate you spending a few minutes with us to
My
kind of
pleasure.
give us the roundup of what we're doing here and why it's so important, and a little bit more information of really what this disease is. So I appreciate
Dave, thank
all
you
that.
so much.
Thank you so much.
My great pleasure.
Terrific.
Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
And thank you for being here today.
Oh,
We
absolutely.
appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm glad I can do it. So, Jendaya Scott Miller,
Yes.
thank you so much for joining us. And my
Thank
first
you.
question is, well, how about this? The event pretty much just started.
Yes.
But tell me so far, like what's been going on? What are you doing? How's things?
So this is my first Ron's Run event, and I am blown away. I'm kind of upset because we have to leave a little early because we have a wedding, and I'm just like, oh man, like cannot find a reason to play sick. But yeah, I mean, from the time we turned in off the main road to the venue, it has been absolutely amazing. I think Kentucky Derby is being celebrated everywhere throughout the U.S. today, but I couldn't imagine anyone doing it better than Ron Foley Foundation, because they are killing it. The venue, the music, the auctions, the drinks, everything. It's been simply amazing. And when Barbara and I met, we just instantly fell in love. So I have a nonprofit organization. It's called Angel of Edgewood, and we're out of Hartford, Connecticut. And so Angel of Edgewood, we fight food insecurities. We feed those in need, and then everything else on top of it, wraparound services. We do tons of community events throughout the year. And so I received a call from Hartford Foundation for Public Giving. And one of our managers there said that she wanted me to meet one of their other organizations that they work with. And so she connected me with Barbara and Nancy. And I tell you, when we first met, our first meeting, you would think we had been friends for years. And so we went to the office. They explained everything that Ron Foley Foundation does. We explained everything that we did. And so one of Nancy's missions was to, she said, we do all these amazing things, right? But then we found out there's this huge component that we're missing. We offer these services and support for families in need, from housing to medical and everything in between. But there's an entire community and cultures that are dealing with pancreatic cancer on a higher basis, but we want to learn how to reach them and how we can go about this. And so I'm uncut and raw. Anything that I don't sugarcoat anything.
Good.
And so when she talked about all that they had done and told us about the researcher that they had who researched pancreatic cancer in people of color, and how we could reach the community. And I said, well, first you have to understand the Black community and communities of color, which means, a lot of times, in most cases, medical issues, mental health issues is something that we don't discuss. It's a no-no. Everything is swept under the rug. And so what I explained to Nancy and Barbara was that, we want to help them, but first we need to get them to understand the signs. And so that's how we came up with the name for the initiative, which is, the acronym is PCP-POP, which stands for Pancreatic Cancer Prevention for People of Color. And then how we would approach. So when we did the commercial and PSA, I told her what the first thing we need to do is, get everyone comfortable and able to trust Ron Foley Foundation and Angela Edgewood on this initiative together. And we have to talk about the things that's not typically talked about in these environments and in the Black community. Typically, when someone passes, whoever handles the funeral, that's the one that has the golden ticket. And if they choose to let you know how the person passed or anything, you may know. But if not, you're out of luck. And so we've been walking around for years, generations, just knowing that, Uncle Joe died, but nobody knew, what he died from. And so if we don't talk about these matters, we will never know how to address them. And so what I explained to them was, in the Black community, most when people hear pancreatic cancer, their first time hearing it was actually when Aretha Franklin died, or they think this is
She died from pancreatic cancer?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep. Or they think it's a cancer only for white people. And so half the battle of reaching these communities is educating and getting them to understand. And so that's the approach we're taking. So when we sat down and talked, we had all of these great ideas, but it would be a waste of time and money if we jumped to this end without addressing the core issues, which is understanding and education and trust, which was really huge. And so we're still in the beginning stages in putting together how we will reach the community. Ron Foley Foundation and our organization Angel of Edgewood both have an excellent relationship with Hartford Healthcare, and so we have all of these opportunities to reach the different communities, and the support that they have to offer is just unmatched. You know, there's different organizations doing different things. I come across a lot of them, but I can't say, you know, so far that I've come across anyone who is doing the work that Ron Foley Foundation is doing when it comes to direct care to families and patients and things like that.
Yeah, they do an amazing job just getting the word out, supporting
Yes.
people, supporting not only the research, but I talked with the doctor that was here prior to you about just, not just the medical aspect of it, just the family aspect of
Yep,
it.
the family
because
dynamics.
it's not just medical bills; it's everything.
It's everything.
It's a life-changing thing. You backed up about in the Black community the education,
Yes.
and you also said that if somebody passes or whatever, it's really not talked about the causes. Is that some of the education you want to do? Is you want to tell people, like, listen, it's okay to talk about this? Is that some of what this is?
Yes. So education as far as like families talking, because that person who knows why this person and that person passed away, if they die, there goes the family history. And it's like that in my family, as well as several others. And we just don't know why. There's no reason. And so the conversations is what really leads to prevention when they understand what's going on. And what's so crazy is, so I have a cousin who's a makeup artist. She's done my makeup. I connected her with Barbara, and she did Barbara's makeup. And so when I introduced her, I said, hey, you know, my friend Barbara Foley, you know, needs her makeup done. We're doing this, that, and the other. And so I explained to her what Ron Foley Foundation was. And just that fast, she was like, oh my gosh, I would love to do her makeup. I'm totally interested. I want to get involved. My mom died from pancreatic cancer.
Wow. Yeah.
But the thing was,
Yeah.
we went to mom's funeral. Nobody said it. You know what I mean? Because it's part of, it's like the norm in the Black and Hispanic community. It's not talked about. So here we are. I'm like telling her all these amazing things about Ron Foley Foundation. This woman needs her makeup done. And, you know, the work that they do, because, and that's how our minds are conditioned. You just don't ask. So, you know, I never knew that my cousin's mom died from pancreatic cancer, you know? And so I think at that moment when I was referring Barbara for her to do her makeup, that like it hit me. Like I knew it was there and I knew it was bad, but I think that particular situation, you know, took it to an entirely different level.
Why is just kind of curious to get a little bit off track, but why is that? Why is it that nobody wants to talk? I mean, isn't there questions? Aren't people sitting at the funeral like, why? And the rumors must go around, and
They do, and you know, I honestly don't know why, but I can tell you it's cultural. As many people talk about it or don't talk about it, it's like one of those things. Like it is what it is. I could say my grandmother truly was like the person that was like the generation breaker when it came to those things. You know, whether it was someone that was ill or, you know, going through something, she was honest about it. And I'm very fortunate for that. One, I was raised by my grandmother, and I think that's one of the most important things that she instilled in me was about, you know, honesty, not being ashamed of family, where you came from, just, you know, being open about things. And the way that she raised me has allowed me to break generational curses with my children. But there's a lot of people in my family and other families who just still don't, and they're just conditioned that way. They don't know how, they don't know why, but they just know, you know, you have to stay quiet. It's no different than this is a little bit off topic, but it's just speaking to the point, where my older daughter was molested by a family member.
Oh, sorry.
And I dealt with all sorts of, threats and things like that, because I did tell the pastor of our church. I did go to the police and things like that. And though they knew the person was wrong, the thing that they were mad about was me telling, and there's my family and so many others who are living with all of these things and issues that are swept under the rug. Like, we know who knows why so-and-so died, but you dare not ask. And I think because it's generational and it continues over and over and over, they're conditioned to just don't say anything, but no one knows why.
So some of your work is to sort of break those stigmas, break those, you can call them traditions, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't know, because tradition,
It's stigmas.
you think of like happy stuff.
Yeah, you do.
Right.
You do. Yeah, traditions, you think of opening a gift at midnight on Christmas with family,
yeah.
But, it's like traditions versus trauma.
Yeah.
And it's really trauma. And
Well, that's great. That's great work, because I think the more people talk and the more we learn about what's happening and the experience that people had with pancreatic cancer, and they tried this and they did this and this worked and this didn't. I mean,
Yes.
the more that's talked about, the more people will understand. Like, although it's the doctor. What did the doctor say? 7%, 3% survive, something like that. Out of maybe that percentage will go up, or it's rough. So every little bit of any kind of communication, medicine, all of
Is
that,
important.
I think is important. I think that's very important. So it's
most
really
of
good
the
work.
time when people find out that they have pancreatic cancer, they usually don't have much time to live. And I can say that I've learned so much from Barbara and Nancy the times that we've been working together, and all the way down to like the gene that determines if you have pancreatic cancer. It's very, very close and similar, and often like misdiagnosed, I believe, is what they told me, to breast cancer, because it gives the same results or something like that. I'm not a medical profession by far, but I have learned so much from Nancy, and it's just Nancy and Barbara, and it's just been truly amazing. And so when we did the PSA, she said, well, where will we do it and things like that? And I said, we're going to do it right in the heart of the hood, because if you want people to connect and believe in what we're doing and what we're saying, we have to meet them where they are, where they truly are. And so we did the commercial in various parts of Hartford, from Franklin Avenue all the way to Albany Avenue, and it was truly amazing. We did a launch of the commercial at the at our Women's History Month event that we do in March, and I know today they're going to play the commercial as well. But we, like I said, we fight all sorts of food insecurities, homelessness, all sorts of wraparound services. And so, the platform that I have to be able to talk about and raise awareness on what Barbara does is truly amazing. And so it was a real honor for me when the Hartford Foundation told her, this is what you want to do. There's no other person that we would even think about connecting you with other than Jediah Scott Miller, the Angel of Edgewood. And it's because of my rawness, my reputation in the community. People trust us, and so that's half the battle. And so when we gain their trust, they're able to come to us and ask the questions and get the health care that they need.
I love it. That's
Yes.
awesome. What is your hope for today's event? What is your, you're here, everybody here is going to have a good time. They're going to have some drinks, they're going to have some food, they're going to mingle, meet other people. What's your hope for the money that's raised here today? What do you need? What's most important to you as far as pancreatic cancer, the whole, not just research, but the whole thing?
So from It's kind of two-part, but my hope for today, the funding, I can't say that I'm expecting any more than they already do, and I say that because they have these resources, funding, things like that. They just don't have the people. And so Ron Foley Foundation is already ahead of the game because of their understanding of what is needed in all communities. And so where they are, and they found these things out on their own, so for them to step out and take this brave step to say, hey, we need to be working in these communities and giving more. I know they're going to do the right things with communities of color, with all communities. I'm a very diverse person. I was raised in a diverse household. Although my grandparents who raised me were from the north end of Hartford, my grandfather was at Hartford schools, and my grandmother taught at Prince Tech State Technical School, which was on the south end. But their house was that house in the community where everybody can come to, whether they were hungry, needed clothes, somewhere to stay, all of those different things. And so I'm very grateful for that. And that's, how I'm grounded in the community by having relationships on both sides. And everybody that I've introduced Nancy to, they all have fallen in love. And so, I like I said, I couldn't ask for anything more because they're doing it. They're really doing it. They're not like some of these other organizations that, you're raising all this money, but the work isn't being done. Yeah. So, it's I don't have a big wish because the work is truly being done. And from the time we connected, I've been blessed and honored to be in their presence and watch them do the work.
That is awesome. I'm going to let you get back to the party.
Okay.
Because I know you're ready to go. Anything else? We talked about a lot. Anything else you think you want to mention? Because there's so much more we could talk about, but again, time is limited because I do want you to get back to having some fun. But maybe we'll pick it up at another time. But is there anything, leaving thoughts? I guess we'll put it there.
Support them, support us. Anyone wants to learn anything about us, we're Angel of Edgewood. You can find us on all social media platforms, on YouTube. We have the largest back to school initiative in the state that's held at the Yargo Stadium this year. It's August 23rd. And it's a ton of resource services that's offered as well. And then we have a huge holiday event, which is called Project Angel Wings. We're going into our 5th year. And so this particular Christmas event is for children with disabilities, people with illnesses, autism, you name it. And when I tell you, we do everything from weighted blankets to handicap ramps. We raise a lot of money. I used to do foster care, and I took care of tons of children that were in therapeutic care. And one of the things that I used to see was like, when we had Christmas parties, through different agencies, I'm like, you guys raise all this money. This is what you give the kids. There was like no thought put into it. So like, if their hands don't work, why would you give them a handheld gift? And so I always said, if my work ever reached this level, that's what I would do. And so we reach out to the families, they apply, the ones who are selected. And, some people have more than one child that's disabled. They have 4. And so we take care of the entire family during the holidays. And it gives the parents or caretakers a break. They carry so much weight, and there's not a lot of resources, especially after they age out of different programs and services. And so back to school and Project Angel Wings are our largest initiatives throughout the year. So if anyone has a family member or a child or an adult that's disabled and in need, definitely reach out to us.
Awesome.
Yes.
I'm sure they will. We can throw some information up on the screen so people can see it.
Absolutely.
And Jendaya, thank you so much.
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
It, and have a wonderful
was so
day.
nice meeting you guys.
Pleasure meeting you, and we'll stay in touch.
Yeah, please do.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right.
Thank
Enjoy.
you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
You.
My name is Sabria Hardy, and I'm the Director of Programs and Partnerships for Angel of Edgewood.
Give us a little rundown about Angel of Edgewood, sort of how they started, why they started, I think is sort of probably more important. And sort of what are your day-to-day sort of activities and roles?
Well, Angel of Edgewood is a food insecurity nonprofit, so we help people in our community with food who are struggling from day to day, affording meals to eat, affording healthy food options for their children. And what we actually found was that there's levels to food insecurity that you don't often see. So what we actually do is a lot more than just food. So sometimes it goes to helping people find jobs, to helping people prepare for job interviews, to assisting with rent, anything that can affect your ability to afford food for the month, we assist with.
Do you partner with any sort of like shelters in the city of Hartford or anything like that? I know you're sort of recent partners now with Ron Foley.
Yes.
Do you have any other partners?
So we have some partnerships with Inner Community Health, Hartford Health. We also have partnerships with, let's see.
That's all right. We don't have to
Somebody-
name them all. It's all good.
The YMCA
good.
is one of them. Yeah, there's a lot of different partnerships we have in our community. We actually have a new one with Neighborhood Health Division of Hartford Health, where they're actually going to be going out with us on our mobile food truck and delivering medical care to all of the people who are in need.
Oh, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
How important is your partnership with the Ron Foley Foundation?
It's very important. It helps us raise awareness for cancer in our community. A lot of people in the communities of color have many of the risk factors for pancreatic cancer, whether it be weight, stress, high blood pressure, smoking. Those type of things are common in a lot of the communities that we serve, and a lot of the communities that we serve have no idea about pancreatic cancer whatsoever.
Is it, I don't know if you know the answer to this, is the statistics between people of color and white people as far as the occurrence of pancreatic cancer, is it pretty much equal? Is there a higher percentage in one group as opposed to the other? Do you know the answer to that question?
So I believe there's a higher percentage in African American people, and especially as far as getting it detected at an early rate. So there's definitely a higher percentage of African Americans who are diagnosed late stage and don't have the ability to get the treatment that they need to have a better outcome.
Now, I know some of this, is it Jendaya, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did I get it right? I know she talked about some of she called them traditions, but they're more sort of stigmas because really these kind of things aren't talked about in your communities, her communities.
Yep, that's absolutely right.
So one of your missions there is to hopefully educate and change that. And I just lost my train of thought because I saw Tony Sisti walk by.
That's all
So I
right.
completely lost my train of
Well,
thought.
you were talking about the stigma in African American
Yeah.
communities about talking about your health issues and health history, and I think that's one of the most important things that we raise awareness for. If we don't do anything else, just let people know that it's okay to talk about your health history. It's okay to talk to your family members about what's ailing you or the health history of other family members. It's going to help them in the long run get the help that they need regarding their health. So I think it's the most important thing. If you want your family to live a long life, you want your cousins
Yeah.
to live a long life, talk about these things.
And that's kind of what we touched on too. It's just talking about it. It's just getting it out in the
Absolutely.
open, and then if you can learn from other people's experiences of things that helped, maybe that didn't help so much.
Exactly.
Different doctors, different medical facilities. I mean, it runs the whole bit. So I think communication is most everything, right? Communication is a pretty big part of just people learning and doing better in life. So
Absolutely.
hopefully your mission. And it sounds like it will. Sounds like you're on the right track to really,
Yeah, I
So
don't know
you-
if you've seen our new PSA.
No, so Jendai was talking about it. I'm anxious to see it, and I didn't have a chance to ask her this question, so I'm going to ask you. Were you present there for the filming of the?
So I wasn't there for the filming of
Okay.
the PSA.
Do you know how? Because she said you went into the North End and you shot it sort of where the people are.
Mhm.
Did she bring any feedback back to you as far as like how well the production was received?
Well, I saw it unveiled with everybody else at our Women's History Month event, and it was amazing. You know, everybody was just like in awe. I even heard some gasps in the crowd, like, they're on Albany Avenue? And, you know, it was definitely amazing to see, you know, that Barbara came out in our community and,
Oh,
you
it's
know, really
wonderful.
cares about spreading awareness for pancreatic cancer.
Yeah, I didn't know she did that. I never asked her. I know we talked about putting some things together.
It was amazing.
I'm happy she partnered with you folks. That's really, yeah, she's a wonderful person.
Yes.
So I'm gonna let you get back to the party.
Oh, absolutely.
So thank you so much for stopping by. I know
Thank you for
probably
having me.
were surprised to sit down and talk about this.
Yes,
but
I
this
wasn't
is great.
prepared for an interview today.
It's all good.
So I got the allergies going on. Sorry
No.
about that. But
No, you're good. Thank you so very much. I
have
appreciate
a great day.
it. Thanks. You too. Enjoy the party. So we've known each other for a little while.
A little bit,
Yeah, I don't know, quite a while.
quite a while.
And I don't know if you introduced me to Barbara, but it's quite possible that you did.
I
'Cause
think-
you
I think
introduced
I
me
did.
to a lot of people, but I know you've kept me in touch with Barbara.
Right.
And last time we saw each other was at another event.
It was at their November event at New Country Motors.
And I did well. I walked away with
You
a
walk
case
away
of
with the whole case of bourbon, but you know,
I still have it.
who's keeping track?
I didn't finish it.
I know.
I gave some away.
You're supposed to donate most of it.
Yeah, I did. I
Yeah.
donated
That
a
was
lot.
the deal.
Yeah, that's what I did. But I still have a few bottles left over because,
Yeah.
it's Jack Daniels. So, but that was a great event. So let's do this. Why don't you tell me a little bit about, if you know, I'm sure you know the answer to what I'm going to ask.
Go ahead.
What is this event that we're at? Why is it here? And a little bit of a history.
Yeah. So, 15 years ago, let me back up. So, our good friend Ron Foley passed away, pancreatic cancers, at 60, and there wasn't a lot of education going on. There wasn't a lot of public awareness of pancreatic cancer because, candidly, and people know this, most patients get diagnosed stage 4. It's really at the tail end, and the longevity after you're diagnosed it's very short. It's a short runway. So Barbara felt compelled to do something a little different. So she started with a little event on Kentucky Derby Day in her backyard. And that was 15 years ago because Ron liked the Kentucky Derby and it'd be something fun in his memory. And I knew Ron and I'm a neighbor of Barbara, and after the event I said, we got to kind of strategize how to make this a little bigger and better. And I won't get into all the details, but I gently nudged her and her friends to go to a public, facility that was equestrian, very similar to here at the Polo Grounds because it's Kentucky Derby. We want to be in the right venue and it's equestrian. And by design, this event has been put together to be very unique.
Yeah.
Not a black tie affair in the evening, which we could do. We want to make it during the afternoon. We want to make it on Kentucky Derby. We want to end it where people can actually see the Kentucky Derby live on a big screen TV, right?
And she's got that screen in there.
Oh, that's pretty big.
That is
That's a monster,
yeah,
right? And I always tell people about this event, and as you know, you can't experience it until you're here, right? I mean, you can say it's great, there's great food and beverage and people, until you're here and see the energy in the venue,
Yeah.
right? So to give credit where it's due, for the last, 13 years we had it, 12, 13 years we had it at Foley Farms.
Right.
And the Patricelli family's been very generous with us. And this was just a change of venue because candidly we had to rent a tent and rent a whole bunch of stuff, tables and chairs and linens, and it's just a lot of energy
Yeah.
without raising any money. And you come here and it's a turnkey operation, right? We have tents, we have a physical location, meaning the building, if it's inclement weather, professional porta potties we don't have to rent, and these all seem insignificant until you add all these pieces up.
Yeah.
There's a lot of logistics, so this helps us focus on the event itself, the program. And to your point, why are we here? We're here to raise money for three things, right? It's all about pancreatic cancer. Money for cutting edge research, money for public education and awareness, and that's kind of where that PSA comes in mind, so we can get the word out into different communities that are still affected. And thirdly, which I think is one of the more important facets of what we do, it's called Ron's Rescue, and we actually provide financial assistance to patients battling the disease. So a little known fact, which we're pretty proud of, over the last 12 years, we've given away over $500,000.
Wow.
Right? And we've
Wow.
given several millions of dollars to UConn, Hartford Health, Yale for research. So we continue because the battle continues. So
Yep.
we're at it. We try to make it fun. We're in a beautiful,
Yep.
venue, great food, beverage, great friends.
Yep.
We talk about socialize this with our friends. This is a great example. I chatted with you at a West Hartford Chamber meeting. Several, you got involved, and you're here today. And we kind of just bring more of our friends and family together to kind of promote the mission.
Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, I talked to you because I think I called you up. I said I'd like to do something, and I think we kind of collaborated on this. And I thought this is something I want to do more
Exactly.
of, and I
Right.
want to give because I know Barbara. She helped me when I needed help,
Right.
and it's the least. This is sort of the least I can do to hopefully spread the word just a little bit more, so a few more people hear.
We
about what
always
she's doing.
appreciate your support. Again, you and I had a phone conversation, and we got brainstorming, talked about a podcast, and lo and behold, here it is.
Here it is.
So
Here
this
it
is
is.
the first
Yeah.
official podcast at Ron's Run for Rose, and probably not the last. but
I hope not. I hope this. The people I've spoken with so far have been terrific.
Yep.
Very open and honest, and giving as far as their time and their experience
Right.
and their knowledge of what's happening, and that's what it's about. And I don't want to keep you because
Yep.
I know you got to get back. You got a lot of friends in there you want to talk
yeah,
to.
we
and-
are all here to share our gifts, and you
Yeah.
share yours, and we certainly appreciate
yeah.
that.
Well, Tony, thanks so much for
All right.
connecting everybody, and you stay well. And
So-
you got to come down to Brantford soon
Right.
too.
Cheers to Dave, Direct Line Media, and all our friends here at Ron's Run for the Roses.
Appreciate it, Tony. Thank you so much. We'll see you. All right, you got it.